Hi, my name is Emmanuel. My partner is Brianna Mahoney. We're from Rome Free Academy. Today we are going to interview Ismael Ramos to the 17th of November 2003 at 9 o'clock. What is your full name?
Ismael M. Ramos.
Where and when were you born?
I was born September 10th, 34 in New York City, New York.
What was your pre-service education?
I had 1 year of high school ROTC.
Did you have a pre-service occupation?
No.
When did you enter the service?
February 14, 1952.
Were you drafted or did you
I
enlist?
enlisted.
You enlisted yourself. What branch did you serve and why?
I served in the Army for 9 years and 12 years in the Air Force.
Why did you enlist yourself?
I enlisted because I just wanted to go in.
Sounds good.
In fact, I quit high school to go in. But 3 years later, I got my diploma. And then when I was 50, I got my college degree.
That's good. Where did you go for the basic training?
Fort Ord, California.
Did you feel that your training was accurate?
It was great.
It was great.
Took 16 weeks of infantry training, and I got to Korea. I knew what to do. I was still 17 years old when I got there. So I saw combat when I was 17.
Wow.
I got wounded when I was 18.
Wow. What wars were you actively involved in?
Korean War from 52 to 53, Vietnam from 64 to 65.
Your highest rank held was Master Sergeant?
Master Sergeant, right.
Please explain how you received such a high rank.
Well, in the Army, I got my rank by people dying. As they died by attrition, you moved up. So I made Staff Sergeant. In the Air Force, I made Master Sergeant because I took a test and eventually passed it.
What was it like having that rank?
Felt great.
Felt good about yourself.
Yes.
We know you were in combat. Where did you first come into combat and where?
First time I saw combat was in Korea in 1952. It was September. I just turned 18 when I saw my first combat. And the second time I saw combat was in Vietnam. I was 30 years old, and that was in 64.
Can you describe what it was like in combat?
Well, in Korea, since I was young, I had no idea. You know? I just went along and just stayed alive. And towards the end there was 3 of us that went to Korea together. One guy was named Pete Ramos, the other one was Rodriguez, and all 3 of us got wounded by the time our time was up. And in Vietnam, since I was older, I watched myself much, because I had 3 kids and a wife, so I watched myself much more.
How were you wounded?
I got shot in the hip and in the leg by a machine gun.
Wow. And during combat, I imagine.
During combat, right. I went down, we had a couple of guys down the bottom of the valley, and they called for me to go down and get them out of there because I was the closest. I went down and got them out, but in the process I got wounded.
Wow. Were you hurt really bad?
Oh yeah, I spent 2 months in the hospital.
Wow.
I had a skin graft. I got shot in the leg and the thigh. The bullet stayed in there, but the one on my hip fell on my hand.
Wow.
And that's the one, I still have shrapnel on my hip.
Did seeing your first casualties of war have any effect on you?
None whatsoever. First time I saw a dead body was a Chinese guy. I thought it was a dummy. And I realized it was a person. But it didn't affect me at all.
So it didn't affect you in combat scene?
No.
It did. Can you describe any missions that you were involved in any of the 2 wars?
In Korea, I mentioned Korea more because I was young then. And we went on patrols every day. We go down in the valley and look for trouble. Or we go out, they call outposts, OPs, and there'd be 2 or 3 of us sitting out there for 12 hours, just listening to see if anybody's going to sneak up on us. But we went out every day in combat. We got guys killed, wounded, stuff like that. But the worst part was it was cold, snow. It was about 40 degrees below 0.
Wow.
It was cold. Your rifles got frozen over. You spend most of your time sleeping. Because you got very little sleep.
Yeah, imagine. How in Korea though? you also mentioned Korea.
That's not about Korea.
And Vietnam, I mean.
In Vietnam, we worked out of Saigon.
Mm-hmm.
When I went there was only 20,000 troops,
Okay.
and some of the guys had their families with them.
Wow.
So we operate out of Saigon, go out in the field, and that night come back. We stayed in the hotels. But then as the war got worse and worse, then they moved out of Saigon, out to the field. And the way I was fortunate, because I got there before the build-up.
Can you describe the September 1952 combat in Korea?
Well, the first time I went in combat, we got on trucks, that was at night,
Mm-hmm.
and then the artillery started going off above our heads, and we all ducked, we didn't know what the hell was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And we walked all day, well, it was in the evening, we walked all night, slept on the ground just before we dropped, and then went to the front lines, and then we replaced the troops that were up there, and we took their place. So again, I had no idea what was going on. I was scared all the way.
Mm-hmm. What was your objective, though?
Our objective in Korea was to hold line. They call it DMZ.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is before the DMZ, but it's the same place.
Mm-hmm.
We would go out, go out and look for trouble, or else see if we find anybody out there, and then come back that morning. So sometimes the patrols will last 12, 14 hours.
Were you successful, though?
Sometimes. We lost some guys. And other times we go out there and just look and wait, nothing, go right back.
How were you wounded in July 1953? I think you were.
I got a call from the headquarters saying that we had a couple of guys down there trapped.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked me to go down, so I took one of my men with me. And as I was getting them out, had my rifle like this, and the fire hit the bank. And as it hit the bank, it spun me around. That's one thing that saved me, because it hit the ground first. If I'd gone straight through it, it would have killed me. I got shot in the hip here and in the leg. When I hit my hip, I grabbed my arm, and I grabbed my side, the bullet fell out. The one on my leg went straight in and stayed in.
How would you rate the effectiveness of the unit you were involved in?
Top notch. Yeah. And most of the guys in the war were in between 18 and 22. There were no old men. Old men are talking about 27, 28.
And why do you say they were effective, your unit? What makes you say
Well, you go into combat, you don't think about the United States, you don't think about the flag, you think about your buddies, that's it. And we were all real close, so we all helped each other out. That's the reason why I say it was effective.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are your most vivid memories of your combat experience in Korea and Vietnam?
Mine was when I got wounded.
Mm-hmm.
And in Vietnam, I saw a lot of bombings, like nowadays you hear about the terrorists.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they started in Vietnam. I remember there was a hotel that blew up, it had 250 people die. And there was a floating restaurant that blew up all around me.
Mm-hmm.
The airport blew up, all by terrorists. It's the same thing that's going on right now in Iraq. That was the most vivid.
Mm-hmm. What other, where in other branches of service were you in?
I was in the Air Force from, when I got out of the Army in '65, I said, I'm not going back to war. So I joined the Air Force, and I spent 12 years in the Air Force. In fact, I spent, at Griffiths here, I put 4 years here. I put 1 year in Plattsburgh and 3 years in North Syracuse. So I avoided going back over again.
That's good. When you weren't in combat, what was your daily life like?
Well, in the Army, if you weren't in combat, you were training. You'll always train. If you go on the front lines, you spend 2 or 3 months up there.
Mm-hmm.
They pull you back, get replacements, the guys that go home, stuff like that. And you have 1 day off, and then you're back to training again. Same thing you do day in and day out. You start from a small unit to a big unit. Clean your rifle, learn what you're doing. It's always something to do.
How was the food and the shelter?
Well, on the front lines we had canned food,
Mm-hmm.
sea rations. And we had a little, what we call a mess hall up on top of the hill. And we had 1 hot meal a day. But the worst part is shaving. Nowadays the helmets are plastic. We had the metal helmets. And we take the metal helmets off and put water in them, fill it up, you shave, and you move it over to your buddy. And he shaved the same water. 3 or 4 of us shaved the same water. Took a shower maybe once every 2 or 3 months. That's right.
Did you get along with your partner?
Oh yeah, we all got along.
You all got
You
along?
have to. Yeah, once in a while we had a couple guys that couldn't get along. They should come right out, get rid of them.
How was the weather like?
Well, in Korea, when I got there, it was just starting to change, but it was cold. So cold that you take your hands out of your gloves, and within 5 minutes you freeze. Guys' rifles would freeze. It was just cold. In fact, we went over a river one time. We shot into the river. The ice, the bullets bounced off. So cold it was.
Freezing. How was it in Vietnam?
And Vietnam was hot and rainy.
How did you stay in touch with family and friends back home?
In Korea, since I was young, I used to write the letters. It'd take 2 or 3 weeks before I get an answer. In Vietnam, it's the same way too. And there was a radio station. We would go there maybe once a month and make a phone call. It was all from, you call from Vietnam, you go to the Philippines, from the Philippines they'd go to the East Coast, or West Coast, which is California, and then they would hook you up, but the voice was real bad. It would fade in and out, barely hear it. You only have for 5 minutes at the most. So that's the only way, other than in writing.
After Korea and Vietnam, did you finally get to return to the States, United States?
Well, I put 6 years first in the Army. Then I said, I'm getting out. So I stayed out 40 years, and then I said, I'll go back in again. So I went back in again. That's when they sent me to Vietnam. Then when I come back from Vietnam, I said, never again will I go in combat. So then I joined the Air Force, and I stayed the whole 12 years in the Air Force. I was stationed in, like I said, mostly in New York, because I picked the bases I wanted to go to. And I spent 3 years in Hawaii.
What medals did you earn, and what were they for?
Well, these are, the highest one I got is the Purple Heart. This one, got a little bit. Purple Heart. But
Okay.
this rifle, you may see war movies, you see guys wearing this rifle. This is a combat instrument badge. You have to be in combat and in the infantry to get this rifle. The rifle has this reef on it. The star is 2 wars. Okay. Now, I've only seen 1 or 2 people with 2 stars. That's World War II, Korea, and Vietnam.
You get 2 stars.
But I got 2 stars. And like I said, the Purple Heart's the best one I've gotten, the highest one I've gotten. The rest are all where you served and decorations, stuff like that. I got a total of 33 decorations. With some of these I got 4 or 5 times.
What do you mean by decorations?
Well, decoration, these medals and decorations, I mean it's the same thing.
Okay.
But some of these are like this is a good combat medal. I've got 3 of those, but you only see 1 medal.
Yeah.
And I've got others that I've got 4 awards. So it comes to about 33 altogether.
Okay. Interesting. What did you earn the Purple Heart for?
For getting wounded. Right.
What did you earn the Combat Infantry badge
For
for?
being in combat in an infantry unit.
Okay.
During the Korean War, you had to spend 30 days on the front lines to get the badge, as you could. And as time went on, they cut it down less and less. Now those that go to Iraq could spend maybe 1 week and get the combat badge because they go in combat. It's a different kind of war.
When did you arrive back home from Korea and Vietnam? And
From Korea, I got back September of '53. The reason I remember that was to watch the World Series. And from Vietnam, I got back August of '65.
And what did you do when you got back home?
Well, when I come back from Korea, I get out, spent 4 years working in the Mohawk Valley, and I was laid off more than I was working. That's why I went back in the Army. And when I come back from Vietnam, well, after I got out of the Air Force, I worked for the post office and I worked on a base here.
And have you attended any reunions?
No, the only reunion I attended, every once in a while, Rome Lab has, for Christmas, they have a Christmas party, and all those that served in Korea go to that.
You also brought some jackets.
Yeah.
Can you explain them, please?
Well, this one here is the Army one. All these ribbons I got when I was in the Army. Purple Heart, the badge. These here badges are for qualification. One is expert, one is sharpshooter.
Okay.
This is President Unit citation. Now the blue rope stands for infantry.
Mm-hmm.
See? You have a patch on the right side, that's the last combat unit you were in.
Okay.
And then these little we call Hershey bars are 6 months in combat for each one. So I got 2 years of combat. Then on this side, these stand for 3 years in the service, 3, 6, 9.
Okay.
See? And this rope here was given to my unit, this unit here in World War II. So as long as you're in the unit, you can wear it. Once you leave the area, take it off. And this one here, the Air Force one, the diamond shows I was first sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got all my ribbons here, those plus what I got in the Air Force. So you carry whatever you had. If you were in the Marine, you do whatever it is, you carry them over. So you see I got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, plus the awards, extra awards on them.
You also have some pictures. Can you please describe them?
Okay, this one here, when I was stationed, this, I think I got the year in the back, 1955, when I was stationed in Hawaii with the infantry unit.
Okay.
This one here was just before I went to Vietnam. My wife had just taken. I was with the 2nd Infantry Division then. That's what that, in fact, they're in Iraq right now. This one here, that was 1954. I was stationed in Texas with the 1st Armored Division. They're in Iraq also. This one I was in Vietnam. You can see the patch.
Mm-hmm.
I was in an office there.
Okay.
And this one here, I was assigned to the headquarters MACV, which we were assigned to the Vietnamese compound, and you can see an old-fashioned cannon there.
Yeah. And how old were you in that picture?
I was 64, so I was 30. And this was, I was an R&R in Japan. I was 17 years old, 18 years old.
That's right when you just enlisted yourself, right?
No, it was about, I was 53, so I'd say it was about June of 53.
Okay.
In fact, I just made corporal. By the time I got back to my unit 5 days later, I made sergeant.
And you also brought this
Yeah, this newspaper was published in Saigon weekly, and they would have all the information. This is 65. My wife saved 20 of these. Besides, I sent them out. In fact, on the back side, you can see how we would mail it out to her right here. You see, airmail stamp, 7 cents in those days.
Wow.
But we had it, in those days, you had to put stamps on your letters.
Mm-hmm.
After the war built up, it was free mail. Like it was in
Okay.
Korea, it was free mail. But this, in the beginning, you had to pay for your own mail.
Wow.
But this here, this was published, it had decorations, people getting war, people getting killed, you know, they had the, in fact, it shows all the ribbons and stuff, people, the Medal of Honor and stuff like that. And those that went to R&R to Australia, Thailand. But it kept us abreast of what's going on.
And you also told me a story about this picture. Can you?
Yeah, this lady here, her husband was on our side, and the Viet Cong went into her village, and they wanted the information on her husband, and she refused, so they cut her hand off. And this doctor here is putting a new hand.
Have you maintained contact with people you served with?
Nope. Every once in a while I'll meet somebody that was assigned to the unit I was in, but the last time I was with a friend of mine was I was stationed in Syracuse, and he was in the Army with me in Hawaii. That's the last person I saw.
And you mentioned about 2 buddies.
Yeah, 2 buddies. Pete Ramos was our sniper, and Rodriguez was a rifleman like me. And we went in there together, and they got wounded about 3 months before I did. They were going to eat, and a mortar round came in and blew up, and they got pretty well bad. One guy was still in for the rest of his life, you know, got arm and leg shrapnel. So they were discharged as soon as they got home. I wasn't, because I still had 2 years to go.
Exactly. What are the major differences between today's military and the military when you served in Korea and Vietnam?
Well, today's military, one is they get paid better than we did. They get all kinds of money. We were told to do something, and we've done it. We had a lot of draftees. 75% of our people were draftees. And at that time, I didn't realize how much problem it was for them. You know, here you are working, or you have a family and they draft you, and you don't want to go. I was a volunteer, so I had no complaints. So there was a different, we had people in our unit that were PhDs, lawyers, some that only had a 4th to 5th education. I realized that when I became a squad leader, which is in charge of 9 guys, that I picked the guys that were born out in the country, because they knew how to live off the land. So I was fortunate there.
And when you mentioned the different pay, how much were you paid?
When I enlisted, I got $72 a month.
Wow.
That was it. When I got out in 58, I was making $200.
Wow.
Now, for the rank that I got out in the Air Force, they're making over $3,000. So there is a big difference. They get more combat pay, they get more dislocation allowance, they get a lot more than what we did.
Mm-hmm. What was the effort that the U.S. was the effort that the U.S. put in Korea and Vietnam a worthwhile cause?
Korea, we stopped them and we held them.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt that was good. In Vietnam, it was a little different because the politicians.
Mm-hmm.
We won the battles, but we lost the war because of that. Korea was a little different.
How did you feel when you come back to the United States? How did people treat you?
I was fortunate. There was no parade for us when I come back in '53. No parades. I got off the ship, put me on a bus, took me to the base, and then sent me home for 30 days. But I would go to a restaurant, like I was stationed in Oklahoma. I worked in a restaurant, ordered a meal, I went to pay for it, somebody already paid for it. So they appreciated those of us that went there.
Did you always agree with the commands your higher officer told you, or did you ever disagree with them?
Not always, but you told to do something, you do it. That's it.
What happens if you disobeyed? Would you?
You get court martial.
In conclusion, how did your military experience change your life?
Well, it matured me. I knew what was going on, because when I first went in, I had no idea what life was. And as the longer I stayed, the more I learned. And then, like being in the Air Force, I had my family with me, so I felt the Air Force was a good family deal, because wherever I went, my family went with me. Korea, when I was my first 9 years in the Army, I was single, so I didn't care.
Do you think that what you did in both wars, you did it for a good cause?
Oh, yes. And if it was a choice of, like Iraq, if my grandchildren or my children had to go, I would go first. Because I know, I've been in combat and I know what the situation is. Of course, I'm kind of old now, but still, I know.
Do you agree what's going on in Iraq today? Do you agree with it, or?
I think we should have got out of there as soon as we finished the war and let the people run their own country. But there's more stuff going on than that. But we're losing a lot of people there, like we did in Vietnam. Every day we were losing people in Vietnam, terrorists.
Well, thank you for letting us interview you, Mr. Ramos.
Okay.